Hey guys, my name is Maran. I did my research paper on how culture affects communication and conflict resolution within an African immigrant family. The reason why I chose this topic was due to my own personal experience. I'm originally from Africa, so I'll be able to relate to the topic. I will start my presentation with a background information um, about Africa. Africa is the second largest continent in the world, with many cultures and customs that makes it unique from the rest of the world. Immigrants from Africa contribute to the fastest growing number in the United States. Even in our DMV area, 11% of the population in Washington, D.C. are African-born individuals. Culture and conflict resolution. Africans tend to use traditional way of resolving conflict. We know that unlike the American culture, the African culture favors collectivism. African immigrant families often seek the help of extended family members and community leaders, such as religious figures or pastors, when conflict arises. I decided to focus on two family theories. The first one was family system theory. I chose four aspects of the theory, but I'm only going to talk about the differentiation of self. African immigrant youth show that they often struggle with maintaining their ethnical and racial identity. They are trying to make their own identity because they still want to become an American, but they don't want to let go of their own culture as well. The second theory is acculturation theory. It's a process through which immigrants change as a result of the contact of a new culture. We see immigrant families comparing and trying to find commonalities between two cultures in an attempt to construct their own identities. When looking at challenges, I decided to break it into two: child versus parent conflict and intimate parent conflict, or intimate partner conflict, excuse me. So child versus parent conflict often arise when different discipline methods are used by African parents, such as spanking. We know that in Africa it's okay to spank your kid, but here in America it's illegal to do it. Also, community level disciplinary structure. Back in Africa, the neighbors have responsibility to raise other kids. They have to guide the kids. They have to make sure that the kids are disciplined as well. Not only the parents are raising the kids, but the whole town is basically raising the kids, which is completely different here in America. I read in one of the article that when the child in African immigrant household does not get along with the parent, they often go to the extended family members, such as it can be an aunt or an uncle, and so the aunt or an uncle will come and discuss that with the parent. Another thing that we see is African parents tend to threaten their kids that they will send them back to Africa if they misbehave. When it comes to intimate partner conflict, patriarchal authority is challenged when men make less money than women, or they are less likely to provide financially to their homes. We have to understand that in Africa, men tend to make more money, not all the time, but in most households, men tend to make more money than the women. So they have the power in their homes. But however, it's completely different here in America. When the women start making more money than their men, they start challenging that power. They start challenging the patriarchal authority in the household. When it comes to domestic abuse, women lack support from their communities, as most favor the husband. African immigrant women dealing with domestic abuse will often be told to forgive her husband or to stay within that marriage for the sake of her children or for the sake of her stability. And she often does not seek professional help because getting the state involved into a family conflict seen as bringing shame upon the household. Some of the strengths within African immigrant households are kids in African immigrant families among least likely to live in single parent homes. So we will see that kids in African immigrant households often grow up with two parents. Another thing is it provides social support coupled with social responsibilities more than individual liberty. These families often seek out help to community leader or extended family members, so they have the social support that they need. Lastly, African women tend to adopt into the new environment faster than men. The women tend to find jobs quicker than men, learn the language faster than men, so that can be seen as a strength as well. The main resilience for African immigrant household is the high levels of psychological distress associated with racial, cultural discrimination, intimate partner violence, parenting, extended family demands, and problematic immigration status. So we don't know what they went through to get where they are today. They overcame so many issues, so many psychological distress to get where they are today. Lastly, as family practitioners, there are three things we should keep in mind. The first one is helping professionals are often seen as state authorities to African immigrant families. As I mentioned before, most African immigrant families don't trust state authorities, so we have to keep that in mind, and we have to make sure that we bond with them before working with them or before trying to work with them. Another thing is that we need to be aware that many factors contribute to a person's identity. Dealing with West African families can be completely different from East African families, so we also have to keep that in mind. Finally, it's essential to consider collectivism culture as individuals to find their identity from a group perspective. I have been saying that the role of extended family members as well as community leaders it could be a pastor, it could be some kind of a leader in the community. They are important to African immigrant families. So we have to make sure that we take that into perspective. Thank you for listening to me.